This morning, Corona crackdown, the drastic new measures under review to stop the spread as the number of cases rises rapidly. Economy struggles, the Prime Minister planning a coronavirus stimulus package after an interest rate cut. And rain bomb, the remnants of an ex-tropical cyclone sweep across the country's east, bringing huge falls and warnings of flash flooding.
This is 7 News with Natalie Barr.
Good morning. New cases of coronavirus have been confirmed in New South Wales as a doctor at a Sydney hospital undergoes treatment after testing positive. Staff who'd worked with the 53-year-old have been put on leave and patients are now being contacted.
40 cases in Australia and more than 90,000 around the world. The coronavirus crisis only getting worse. In New South Wales, the deadly illness is spreading.
This is very sad news.
A Sydney doctor is one of the first to contract the disease from another person.
His diagnosis is not linked to overseas travel.
Health authorities are trying to track down his patients who may also be infected. It follows another case in Queensland with a Chinese uni student diagnosed. He self-quarantined before arriving in Brisbane, prompting new laws to be considered to try and stop the spread of the coronavirus.
For the first time in Australia, laws will need to be used on a scale that will present a different experience for Australians.
They're likely to include forced detention or quarantine for those suspected of carrying the virus, the shutdown of entire schools, offices, churches and events, and at hospitals, decontamination stations.
For the first time, really at a mass level in Australia, people might be required to give information about who they've come in contact with at certain points in time.
Taylor Hill, 7 News.
The federal government is expected to announce its economic response to the coronavirus following the Reserve Bank's rate cut. Let's go live to political reporter Olivia Leeming in Canberra. Olivia, the Prime Minister has promised a financial boost.
Yeah, preparing to unveil a new stimulus package to help businesses deal with the coronavirus, help maintain their cash flows and hold on to their staff, but stressing this will be far more measured than Labor's fiscal stimulus in response to the global financial crisis over a decade ago. Rather, a targeted plan to help specific sectors of the economy that are affected, including universities, tourism, the building sector and key exporters. The economy likely to contract in the March quarter, and economists hope this extra boost could help avoid a recession. Here's more from the Prime Minister.
What we need to do is ensure that with the fiscal response that we will provide, and which I flagged last week that we'd be delivering, that it is very targeted, that it's very measured and it's very scalable, so we can continue to respond to these issues as they emerge.
Now, Scott Morrison has also spoken with Australia's major supermarkets about their supply chain arrangements, given we have seen a degree of panic buying, this rush to pick up essentials and canned food, while the country's largest toilet paper manufacturer, Kleenex, has now moved into 24-hour production in both Coles and Woolworths, reassuring customers they have increased deliveries and that stocks will be replenished quickly. Nat?
OK, thanks, Olivia. Meantime, the International Olympic Committee has moved to calm concerns the coronavirus will impact the Games. The committee met at its headquarters in Switzerland this morning, doubling down on its promise the Olympics will go ahead as planned.
The IOC remains fully committed to the success of the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
However, final decisions won't be made about the Games until June. Brazen Queensland teenagers are stealing cars and filming their high-speed police chases before posting the video to social media. In the latest incident, police had to call off the pursuit after a dangerous chase down a Brisbane motorway.
Speeding down Brisbane's M1.
Pole there, boy.
Police hot on their tail, the chopper tracking their every move.
They're righto, Russell.
This video taken inside a car stolen from a family. Allegedly behind the camera, a teenage boy, live streaming their crime spree for all their mates to see.
45 people going to watch us get done.
It was posted online a youth gang's Instagram page. Police used road spikes at 2 separate locations, but they failed to stop the suspect car before the pursuit was deemed too dangerous.
From the boys in blue.
posting these pictures the night before the gang stole Brisbane Lions player Charlie Cameron's Mercedes.
Obviously, it's quite disappointing what happened, but I just want to thank the Queensland Police for looking forward, also the AFL and the people that have messaged me for Instagram and stuff.
But the gang's showing off could have backfired. Police are now using the video they posted to identify the criminals involved. Eliza Avery, 7 News.
It's Super Tuesday in the US, with voting underway in the single biggest contest in the Democratic presidential race. 14 states are voting to choose who will face off against President Donald Trump later this year. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders holds a narrow lead in the delegate count. But in a dramatic shift, a number of high-profile politicians have thrown their support behind former Vice President Joe Biden. Australia's east coast is set for a drenching as a 500-kilometre rain bomb closes in. The downpour is being brought on in part by the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Esther. Parts of inland and southeast New South Wales could see flash flooding today, with drought-ravaged towns to see heavy falls. The downpour is expected to last 48 hours, with rain forecast for Sydney and Melbourne. Southeast Queensland will be hit by the tail end of the system, with Brisbane and the Gold Coast to see showers until next week. An unlicensed driver has escaped jail despite admitting he could have killed someone when he crashed his Ferrari into a building in Sydney's CBD while drunk. He'd only picked up the sports car that day, initially telling police he hadn't been drinking because of his religion.
In tan leather shoes, no socks, Norman van Kulenberg hot-foots it from court.
Are they driving loafers you're wearing today?
If they are, he can't use them for a while. The for now former Ferrari driver's licence suspended for 18 months over this crash in January.
Are you sorry for your actions?
The mortgage broker had just picked up the $300,000 car, losing control on busy Market Street. His lawyer telling the court he is acutely aware that it is by luck no one was killed.
Have you got anything you'd like to say to those people who were on the pavement that day?
A 61-year-old woman fracturing her leg as she leapt out of the way.
Officers who questioned Van Kulenberg here at the scene could smell alcohol, but he told them it was against his religion to drink. Later back at the station, he did admit to having one drink, yet somehow blew .107, more than twice the legal limit. His lawyer suggesting the car itself was also to blame. It's not a Corolla, it's a high-performance vehicle, he said. There is no evidence that he was speeding or was showing off.
Do you regret getting in that Ferrari?
He'd already lost his licence over unpaid speeding fines, walking away with another fine and 100 hours of community service. Alex Hart, 7 News.
Hundreds of jobs are expected to go as the Australian Associated Press shuts down after 85 years in operation. The Newswire service provides copy, sub-editing and photography to newsrooms across the country. Owners say the business is no longer viable, blaming an increase in free online content providers such as Google and Facebook. The AAP boss says consumers had to share the blame as well for not supporting Australian journalism. Melbourne's population has surpassed the whole of Queensland, raising concerns the rapid growth is unsustainable for a city already facing major congestion. Experts believe the city hit the milestone last year, adding 105 more people a day than the Sunshine State. Melbourne is forecast to overtake Sydney as the nation's biggest metropolis in 6 years' time. A Melbourne number plate with just 2 digits has sold for more than $1 million. The last time it was up for grabs, it sold for less than $100,000. But this time, fierce bidding pushed it well past what the seller was expecting.
When small numbers attract big dollars, a set of rare 2-digit number plates worth more than their weight in gold.
1,010,000. Yeah!
After 47 bids at auction, they sold for $1.11 million to a determined local.
We've seen him before, a collector of plates.
Part of a deceased estate, they were for sale for the first time in 20 years. Back then, they sold for around $75,000.
They're tightly held in families, they've been passed down from generations.
Plates with 3 digits usually sell for $100,000 to $250,000, but 101 recently went for $510,000. 2 digits are more sought after. Last year, 59 sold for $535,000.
Because there's a lot of Chinese buyers and investors in heritage plates, the Chinese aren't too keen on the number 4, so we normally see 4 slapped with a bit of a penalty.
But this is far from Victoria's most valuable number plate. At number 1 is, well, number 1. It's owned by businessman Peter Bartels and it's seen around Melbourne on the back of a Mercedes. Estimates put its value as high as $2 million. Number 8 would come close too, but it's not for sale.
We can't have a single digit 8. 2 plus 6 is 8, isn't it?
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Checking Wednesday's weather now. Brisbane, a possible morning shower, 29. Sydney, 25 and rain today. Canberra, rain and possible heavy falls. Melbourne, humid, few showers, 22. Hobart, mostly sunny and 22. Adelaide, 25 and an early shower or 2. Perth, 32, mostly sunny for you today. Darwin, a shower or 2 and a possible storm, 33 degrees. Coming up on 7 Early News today, look at the financial markets, plus the world first Australian project that could predict where bushfires will flare up from space. And a tornado tears through the home of country music. Nashville devastated as the death toll climbs. Scientists at the Australian National University are developing a world-first satellite designed to predict where bushfires are likely to start. The satellite will detect changes in highly flammable plants and trees to help plan backburning operations. It'll also be able to plot likely fire paths based on vegetation readings and the latest weather forecasts. At least 19 people have been killed in the US after a tornado tore through Tennessee and Nashville, leaving homes and buildings in ruins. 50,000 residents remain without power as officials scramble to assess the extent of the damage. These pictures show the devastation left by the system. An entire apartment building ripped to shreds. Schools, courts and train lines have been closed, with authorities pleading for people to stay indoors. Indonesia's most active volcano has erupted, sending a 6-kilometre column of ash into the sky. Mount Marapai's eruption lasted almost 8 minutes, with authorities warning further eruptions are now possible due to moving magma. It triggered the airport in the nearby city of Solo on Java to close. The last major eruption of Mount Marapai killed 353 people 10 years ago. An SUV has driven right through a shoe store in Cincinnati in the US, and police say it was no accident. Officers reported a number of expensive items missing after an investigation of the damage. It's unclear how many people were involved and no arrests have been made. A contest in Russia had participants speed assembling rifles with a twist. You had to be under 18 to partake, with some competitors as young as 6. Around 240 children competed to find out who could assemble an AK-74 the fastest. The winner of the contest, a 16-year-old, has been in training since he was 10 years old. It took him 26 seconds. He says constant practice is his secret to success. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have arrived on Irish soil for a 3-day official visit. Kate wore emerald green as the pair received a warm welcome from President Michael Higgins. The royals then attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the Garden of Remembrance in Dublin city centre. Their whirlwind day also includes a trip to the Guinness storehouse. Checking finance now. The Dow Jones is falling. The Nasdaq is as well. In London, the FT 100 surged while Germany's DAX added points. Closer to home, Japan's Nikkei closed lower. Hong Kong's Hang Seng did as well. But the All Ords and the ASX 200 were both boosted by the RBA's interest rate decision. On the commodities market, gold is trading at $1,646 an ounce. Oil is $47 a barrel. The Aussie dollar is buying 66 US cents today, almost 71 yen, and $1.05 New Zealand. Following the worst flu season on record last year and the new threat we're all facing, there are ways to boost your immune system right now. Before you get sick and may have to visit the doctor, there are a number of steps you can take to improve your chances of staying healthy.
Each year, influenza claims about 1,000 lives in Australia.
If you are a smoker now and you really don't want to have a problem with coronavirus, that could be something that you could do today, give up smokes.
Here are some non-medical steps everyone can take. Add spices to food and ginger and turmeric with antioxidants and detoxification properties. Like green tea, rich in polyphenols, which are efficient infection fighters. Keeping warm is vital. Viruses are more infectious at temperatures below the body's normal 37 degrees. Essential oils such as lemon oil stimulate white blood cells to also fight infection and reduce stress, which causes the brain to produce cortisol, depressing our immune system.
That vitamin D supplementation had a positive effect in reducing viral infections particularly amongst children.
The most effective steps you can take might surprise you. Key immune boosters include staying hydrated with at least 8 glasses of water a day, and the big one is sleep. One study found surviving on just 4 hours a night can deplete the body's natural killer cells by up to 70%.
If you want the absolute number one best thing that you can do to boost your immune system, it's get enough sleep, and we all know that too few of us do that.
See our website for more information on boosting your immune system. Brian Seymour, 7 News.
Next on 7 Early News, the AFL makes a big call on its annual match in Shanghai, and Australia's T20 World Cup semi-final opponent has been decided. Well, they'll have to play without their biggest star. To sport now, and Australia will take on South Africa in the T20 World Cup semi-final if it isn't washed out by Sydney's expected downpour. The South Africans set up the clash after their group game against the West Indies was rained out, leaving them on top of Group B. The Aussies will have to play the match without champion all-rounder Elise Perry, who was ruled out of the rest of the tournament with that hamstring injury.
She's not one to make a big deal about things, and she doesn't want the limelight to be on her.
If the semi-final is washed out, South Africa will automatically progress to Sunday's final. In South Africa, Vice-Captain Alex Carey is relishing the chance to develop his leadership under Aaron Finch in the one-day series.
It's nice to captain teams, and that small taste I had of it, I really enjoyed it.
The Aussies are under pressure to fire tonight after their 74-run defeat in Game 1. The coronavirus pandemic has caused the AFL to scrap its plans to host a match in China this year. The St Kilda-Port Adelaide game, slated for round 11, has been moved from Shanghai to Marvel Stadium in Melbourne in round 12.
You've got to win everywhere. You've got to play everyone at least once. You've got to win enough games to give yourself a chance to play finals. So it's just another opportunity for us.
Collingwood's Adam Treloar is set to miss at least the opening round of the season after injuring his hamstring against Richmond on Sunday. Canberra coach Ricky Stewart says the Raiders have thrown their full support behind Curtis Scott. The NRL is expected to make a call on Scott today under its no-fault stand-down rule as he faces multiple charges, including assault.
Football players don't support mugs, and he's a good person, so they've got around him and they're looking after him.
The Eels have re-signed 198-centimetre second rower Sean Lane until the end of 2023. The Matildas are so focused on qualifying for the Olympics this week, they've arrived in Newcastle oblivious to any threat to the Tokyo Games due to coronavirus.
I haven't even heard that, to be honest.
Just say we'll host it.
Yeah, well, there you go. The mayor herself said that we'll host it, so there it is.
It was lighthearted yesterday, but they know it's crunch time. The Matildas host Vietnam on Friday night before the return leg in Vietnam next Wednesday. The winner goes to Tokyo in 2020. Melbourne United say the Sydney Kings should be feeling pretty bad about themselves after their humiliating 45-point loss in Game 2 of their semi-final series, the biggest ever margin in the NBL's 40-minute era.
If I was on that team, I would just feel deflated, and they really got a number this game. To lose by that much in the playoff game is pretty bad.
Game 3 is in Sydney tomorrow night. Next on 7 Early News, a closer look at how the weather's shaping up in your part of the country. Now to the true definition of one of a kind. Indonesia's only known surviving albino orangutan, Alba, has been released into the wild. She was rescued from an island in Borneo where she was being held captive by residents. After spending a year in a rehab centre, she's out living independently. Taking a look at the weather right around the country now, ex-tropical cyclone Esther and a trough are generating heavy rain and storms over the Northern Territory and Western Queensland. Associated troughs are triggering rain, showers and storms over other parts of the Northern Territory and Queensland, as well as New South Wales, South Australia and northern Western Australia. Around the capitals today, Brisbane a possible morning shower, 29, Sydney 25 and rain at times, Canberra rain and possible heavy falls, 19 for you, Melbourne humid and a few showers, 22, Hobart mostly sunny and 22, Adelaide 25 degrees and an early shower or two, Perth 32, mostly sunny today, Darwin a shower or two and a possible storm. That is 7's early news for this Wednesday, the 4th of March. I'm Natalie Barr. Now it's time for Sunrise.